This is a story of a guy who gets addicted to love hormones after the age of 27. After that, he gets into some incidents in which we may not want to get into. The name of the movie is The Late Bloomer. The movie starts with a man whose name is Peter and he is 27 years old. He is a sex therapist, which means that he treats people obsessed with sex. In other words, we can say that he tries to control the uncontrollable desires of people and try to show them a better path. Just like every other day, today Peter is also treating a pretty girl who starts to seduce him instead of seeking advice. She offers him to have a love hormone clearly, but Peter is not having it. He asks her to read a book on himself which will definitely help her get over the addiction she has. He explains to her how we can control and utilize our urges in other fields as well. He is completely against the idea of love hormone and he claims that he had never had the urge for that either. He believes that these desires detract us from our path and we can live a good life without it as well. Next, we see Peter coming to his apartment where his two friends are waiting for him. Peter had given them the keys to his apartment and they are very good friends. We come to know that those guys are the complete opposite of Peter. He tells them that he is going to a party because of which he tells them to take care of his apartment. He tells them that the party is held in his neighbor's apartment and she is making him multiple dishes. He goes outside of Michelle's house and meets Charlie, who is Michelle's boyfriend. We also know that Peter also liked Michelle somewhat. Charlie is a workaholic and he doesn't even meet Peter correctly. Afterward, Peter meets his friend Michelle, who is making different dishes for different people. He tastes every dish and loves them. He also suggests Michelle open a restaurant where she can make a fortune. Peter afterward goes back to his house where we see his dad is quite concerned about Peter as he is non-sexual. His father mentions that if Peter would have been gay, it was okay, but the way he is makes him upset. He has no interest in sleeping with the other gender and he obviously cannot get married like this. On the next day, Peter finds out that his book got very famous, which gives him an opportunity for an interview in a very popular show. This interview is going to help them a lot and their clinic sales are going to boom as well. In the evening when he comes back home he sees Charlie coming out of the apartment and she comes to know that they had a breakup as expected. Charlie was always busy with his work and never gave Michelle the proper time that she deserved. After Charlie, Peter goes into the apartment of Michelle to support her and hugs her. She reveals that she is going to try to become a chef from now on, as he also told Michelle to open a restaurant. She gets impressed by Peter and starts to kiss him suddenly, but unfortunately, Charlie is not for that kind of thing. He gets a headache and apologizes to Michelle before leaving. Peter gets a headache from time to time, but we will find that out later. The very next day he is forcefully taken to play a basketball match where he is injured by a player. He goes unconscious by the incident and is taken to the hospital. He gets a headache once again, and now the hospital staff decides to do a CAT scan. When the staff opens up his pants for internal examination, they see that his eggs have a smaller size as compared to normal people. This was the reason why he was non-sexual for so long even if he was 27. The next morning he is informed by the doctor that he has had a tumor for years, which caused his body to stop making testosterone hormone. In simple words, we can say that he didn't hit puberty even if he was 27. This was also the reason why he had no urge for the love sandwich and now he was writing a book against that too. The doctor tells him that he will be operated on and the tumor will be removed. Only then he can reach puberty and get married afterward. Peter gets happy after hearing this as he is about to enter puberty, but after the operation. We cut to the scene where luckily his operation is successful and the improvement can be seen visually. He wakes up in a new mood and everyone is happy as his operation was successful. After the hospital, he is taken to his parents' house because he needs to be taken care of. He looks at nude magazines in the bathroom because he wants his lion to wake up and roar, but no help so far. The next day both of the friends come to pay a visit to him bringing a stripper along with them. They ask the girl to seduce Peter that may help him with the situation. She tries her best to do the job, but her efforts fail and Peter remains the same as he was before. The stripper also gets tired because all of her efforts were going in vain. The next day when Peter comes downstairs, his parents get happy and they celebrate because Peter finally reaches puberty after so long. He starts his life from a new turn and when he reaches her apartment, he sees that Luke is planning to sleep with someone else in his apartment upon which he asks him to leave. His lion is still roaring and because of that, Peter goes to the bathroom to settle it. He starts to settle his lion whenever he gets a chance to. Someday he meets Michelle who tells Peter that she got a chance to compete in an event and if she performs well, she will be sent to Los Angeles as a chef in a restaurant. Peter feels sad after hearing this, but he pretends to be happy because he cares for Michelle. He goes to his clinic where, after listening to his patient's problem, he gets annoyed. Taking this to the doctor he is told that it is very normal for everyone. He may get the same feeling a lot of times, and that is because he got puberty after 15 years, and that is because of his tumor. Everything around him, and in his body, has fastened 15 times. He also wanted a fire that was burning inside him constantly for 15 years, and now it's ready to burst like a volcano anywhere. His voice can get heavier as well. He can also crave the love sandwich multiple times. The same night he talks to Michelle on a video call, where we come to know that she had gone to Los Angeles. She praises the owner of the restaurant, to which Peter feels a little jealous, but goes with the flow anyways. He asks her how his first day went, and they talk a lot about that. The next day he goes to a radio station, where he gives an interview, but in between that, his voice breaks and gets dense, because of which he could not complete the interview, and he goes to his parents' house, and there he tells them about his problems, where they try to tell him everything about puberty in detail. He thinks that his parents are obsessed with his puberty, but they are just trying to help him with his problems. He starts to fight and argue with them just like a teenager. This was also a side effect of late puberty. He goes away from there, and after that, we come to know his father was happy, rather than being upset. He mentions that he has been waiting for that moment for 15 years. He goes to his apartment and talks to Michelle once again, who praises his boss. Because of jealousy he argues with Michelle once again, and cuts the call. The next day he meets Luke and Rich. He is asked a favor by Rich, who wants him to babysit his kids on the coming 12th date. He tells Peter that his anniversary is coming on the 22nd of that month, and because he is going to a hotel with his wife, he cannot leave the kids as they are going to spend the night. He accepts the favor, but after that, he feels that his desires and puberty are taking over very rapidly. A neighbor named Josh introduces Tinder to him in order to complete his sweet love desires. He tells Peter that he is going to make a lot of love sandwiches on Tinder, and Peter decides to do it because he did not want Michelle to get disappointed again after meeting him this time. So Peter keeps on swiping right all day long, just like all the men in the world. Even Peter makes many love sandwiches with beautiful ladies. Well, I am still wondering why no one swipes right on me. And one day when Peter visits Michelle's home, he sees Charlie on the door, who is there to apologize to Michelle for his mistakes and claims to be a changed man. Peter is not happy to see him there, but he also brings a bouquet of flowers for her, and Peter assures him not to worry. He takes the flowers from him and tells him that he will give them to Michelle and tell her that Charlie brought those for her. Real quick, movie story recaps here. We've got a small challenge that'll take 5 seconds, and it will bring 10 years of good luck to you. All you gotta do is like and subscribe to the channel if you are enjoying the video, and hit that notification bell and become a part of the cool squad. Now back to the movie. Charlie trusts him as he does not look like a threat and leaves the flowers with him. Later, when Peter sees Michelle, he gives the flowers to Michelle, and she says thank you to him as they caught her off guard, laying in front of her door, but Peter does not mention Charlie's name whatsoever and poses as if he brought the flowers for her. Peter gathers the courage from the love guru that he has become now after the Tinder experience. He asks her out like a man, and she obviously says yes. It's their first date, and Peter gets excited. Peter goes to the washroom like a 12-year-old girl. He dances like a butterfly and puts on perfume for the big night. His excitement is ruined by a phone call from Rich. He tells him about his commitment to babysit his kids so that he can go out on a date with his wife. Peter totally forgot about it and tells him that he cannot do that today because he finally is going out with Michelle. Rich gets angry at this, and we see Peter acting as we acted at 15, an obsessive teenager with a desire to fulfill. Peter then takes Michelle to a very fancy restaurant and succeeds to impress Michelle, as getting a table at that restaurant was very difficult. Peter starts acting like a rotten teenager who tries to boss everyone around as he wants to show her that he is not the same Peter that she met previously, and now he has become a so-called cool boy. Michelle is confused about his strange behavior, and as a cherry on the top, Rich shows up with his wife, and we come to know that Rich actually booked the table for his own date, and Peter has just taken their spot. Peter actually took Michelle out with a stolen reservation from Rich. He thought that Rich won't be able to leave his children and make it there, but Rich brings out the big gun. He tells him that Luke came at the last minute and agreed to babysit his children, as he is not as selfish as Peter, although everyone is selfish in their own way. Michelle gets up to leave after knowing all of this, but Peter goes after her to stop her. She tells him that it's not just this, she also got a message from Charlie, who clearly told her that he was the one who sent the flowers and not the all-sweet Peter that she had in mind. She calls him a mean teenager and leaves him alone. We see Peter working hard in his clinic the very next day because he is a hardworking person, and the patient that day is telling him that she is too obsessed with oral sex. Now that Peter has seen the spring and his joystick is working, he gets hard while working hard in his office and decides to spice up the therapy session. He opens his pant for the initiation of the oral sex when his wicked boss comes into the room without knocking, interrupting the professional therapy. She calls him into her office and suspends him because she herself is old, or maybe she doesn't want the patient to get the proper treatment. His boss is obviously an evil lady. But the passing time, Peter is unable to control his boiling urges and emotions and gets upset like a normal teenager, so he finally decides to talk to his dad about it like a not-so-normal teenager. He tells his dad that he is unable to control his urges and wants to be a professional adult movie star, and I'm joking here obviously. His dad tells him that it's totally normal for men to feel this way at the time of puberty because it's just how men are made, but one has to accept and face his mistakes, as there is a huge difference between being a real man and just acting like a real man. I failed to understand his point, but Peter somehow gets it. Peter further asks him what he should talk to the audience about in his speech tomorrow, while he himself is not able to control his emotions. His father tells him to cut open his heart in front of everyone. The next day, he trash talks his own book and says that he hadn't ever experienced the feeling himself, and he further encourages people to express their feelings instead of oppressing them, because sex is a very important part of our lives and we should cherish it. He advises the audience to become chefs and start cooking love sandwiches left, right, center. Oh well, that's one way to end your professional career, but the audience loves his energy and claps. He then goes to Rich and apologizes for his mistake, and Rich also forgives him, and the audience is left wondering why Rich, being rich, doesn't apply anything to his lips. Rich and Luke, being his friends, encourage him to go to Michelle and tell her the truth and tell him that she would understand. He then goes to her restaurant where she looks happy with Charlie, but he still decides to disturb the whole restaurant by telling them about his testicular cancer and late puberty while innocent civilians are trying to have their soup. He tells them about his mood swings and cries about his own life problems. No one really cares about his problems, but because Michelle herself wants his new energy, she accepts Peter for who he is, a 15-year-old girl. Charlie, on the other hand, is fired dead as collateral damage as she dumps him once again in front of everyone for no real reason. Charlie leaves without any retaliation and the lovebirds shamelessly kiss in front of everyone. In the end, we see that Peter has sown his seed and Michelle is pregnant. He counsels young boys and pregnant Michelle is made to stand next to him for no apparent reason and later writes a book about it, while his mother is doing something that's out of my understanding. The movie ends here, but I am still concerned if Rich applied something to his lips or not. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more such movie recaps.